Welcome back to the motherfucking podcast, guys.
Hi.
I'm Lacey.
I'm Stephanie.
And this is
Here we
go. We're bringing on a comedian today.
And a writer.
Yeah. I mean, obviously she's a writer, but like, you know, the comedian, you could be like writer, producer, actor. She explains.
Mm-hmm.
But we got connected on social media about a year ago, and in her bio, I think it says that she's like a writer for Disney, HBO Max, or we looked up her credentials and she definitely is those things. But it's crazy because I have heard of so many people and see so many people like writing things, writing shorts, writing scripts, writing indie films, writing screenplays and all of these things. But I've never met someone who's like has a legit job, like being like a head writer. And I'm like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Like, how?
Well, we should probably mention her name, Joanna. Is it Joanna
Hausmann?
Hausmann,
yes.
not Haus. We tried to make it be like
Hausmann.
No,
but it's Joanna Hausmann.
Yeah, and I'm not someone that's in the writing space with or anything involving TV, film, or anything. So when Lacey and her have been communicating for the past year, and we've been trying to get her on, and I think we just ended up doing the digital interview. But it was, you usually lose connection and vibe between whenever we do those types of interviews. But she was probably one of my favorite guests that we've ever had on. She made me bust out laughing. And I'm like, damn, you're making me bust out laughing through the computer. I can't even imagine what being around you every day is like. Right. I loved her.
Yeah. It was fun to learn that there are like tricks you can train to be funnier.
Yeah.
That was like a one thing that I was like, wow.
I know. I'm like, damn, I want to go to school to be funnier. Fuck. Yeah. But no, she was amazing. And it's cool because it's kind of tied in with life just so well. Last week, I just saw Dave Chappelle come to Denver, and it was a last minute thing. He didn't really announce the show publicly or something. And some friends that are kind of like in the space told me the day of, like, hey, he just announced, like, you can buy tickets, and they got scooped up super fast. So I had seen him like 10 years ago, but it has been a long time, and it was just so good to just go to an event and laugh your ass off. Like, fuck, like you can really go in there feeling any type of way, and comedy is just amazing. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. It was such a good show. He started off by, bitching about Kanye, which was amazing. And I don't know, it was cool to have that experience and then tie that in with somebody who is also a comedian, and just kind of like, I don't know, comedians are fucking brilliant. Like, I love witty type of humor. I love callbacks type of humor. I just love everything about it. And she taught me a lot today. It was cute. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, also, welcome to LA.
Yeah.
We're filming in my apartment again. So we rearranged the apartment.
Yeah. We've been trying to make it work out here in LA, and it's not as easy as it is for us in Denver. So
never easy.
But it's cute here today. We figured it out. We figured out maybe we'll start doing it out here more, thank God.
Yeah.
But, yeah. What's new with you?
I feel like everything and nothing at the same time. But
amazing.
I think the past week I'm on my period again. I feel like
every time I see you, you're on your period.
I know, it sucks.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm on day 2, but I think this past year I've noticed, and it's become a pattern to where it's not just like the first or second month that I'm realizing this. It's been pretty much, literally been consistent every month this year. And maybe like in other years, I've always known that like my PMSs were always bad. Like my boobs get huge and they hurt. Like I have hormonal acne. Like, so I've always known that I'm like, I don't think that's like, maybe things should be healthier in that department. But every time I get into like day 22 or day 23 of my cycle, which is like when I start PMSing, things just fucking drastically change. Like, drastically. Like I'm maybe snappier. I feel lonelier. Like I feel like a little bit more depressive. Like I'll have like episodes. I'm definitely crying about something. But yeah, like I feel like my only problems come when I'm PMSing and or on my period. On my period's better, but it's really like that PMS week that's just like heavy. So I recently came across this thing called PMDD, which is premenstrual depressive disorder. And I want to look more into that, maybe like talk to somebody, because I'm someone that will go on like WebMD and be like, I'm dying. Like, I have that. So
you're like that?
Kind of. Like
my grandma's like that.
Years ago, someone like was like, they got a false positive for like an STD or something, and I was like, oh, I have it too, and she was like, shut up, like, no, you fucking don't. And I was like, I must have it. But yeah, I just bit my cheek. I have anxiety about like random things, and yeah, so I'm really trying to get my hormones in check, because I also like had a panic attack last week, which I don't really have.
Is that with me?
Dude, I haven't told you this, and I'm quite embarrassed. I had therapy about it. I shattered my phone that day. I threw my phone. And remember the Glow with Ida, like her lotion bottle, the really nice like daytime one, that shattered.
And your phone?
Yeah, I threw two things. I didn't throw the bottle. I threw my toiletry bag, and it shattered in my bag.
Because of our talk?
Yeah.
What?
Dude, I can't. Texting you when we're like in snippy fights, you have no idea what happens to my body.
Oh my God.
That's why, like.
It's weird, because I was just thinking prior to that, I was like, oh, me and Lacey haven't had like a little.
I know,
snippy fight for like a long time.
I know, and
like clock's ticking.
I've gotten like really good, because for a while I would always just kind of like let a day or two go by before I respond to Stephanie if we're ever in an argument, which is not good. And so I've gotten a lot better at like being super responsive and trying to like handle the situation in the moment. But it's always really hard for me. Like before things escalated, I had just got done working out, and I felt like my adrenaline was rushing. Almost, it felt like someone maybe like came and like scared me when I was sitting in my car. Like that's how like my body was reacting. So it was just.
We were on two totally different, because I was like, she just needs some time to respond. I'm just going to eat, blah, blah, blah. And then you called me in the middle of my food, and you were like.
It was bad. And like.
And it was all over this studio. Like it was just because we were trying to figure out. It's just.
Right.
LA's a lot.
Well, anyways, I definitely. I guess I did overreact, but
I don't know.
In a moment like that, I couldn't help it.
Yeah,
like,
I get it.
I was talking to my therapist, and I was like, dude, I'm so embarrassed. I broke things. Like, that's not normal. Like, I literally broke things. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Is there something that I should be taking? Like,
oh, and you think this is because the PMSing thing?
Maybe, because, like, even Cameron was like, I think you, like, took that a little bit too personally. But, yeah, like, conversations like that are really hard for me, because I can't. They just, like, shake me up in a weird way. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out like what to do with my hormones, because I just don't think this is normal. Like 2 weeks, I'm fucking great. But then like when I'm PMSing, like there's this darkness that is unleashed.
I feel like this is kind of new though. Maybe just like, unless you've always dealt with this, maybe just like, I don't know. I mean, because whenever all that happened, I felt bad. And so I don't think that you're like being like too much or anything, or like, maybe you feel like you're too much for yourself, which is totally normal and valid, but I didn't. It didn't affect me in a way that like I was like, golly, you know, I just was like sad.
Yeah,
that happened in that way, because it was just total miscommunication on our agendas.
Well, that's why I always try and call you when something's like taking a turn.
That's what I was saying. She called me mid panic attack, and I was like, damn, I have so much respect for you, because most people would like text it out or like ignore it, and she just straight up called, and I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Some major respect for you right now. I was like, fuck. Well, I could never.
I was telling my therapist, like, I think a lot of these problems that I may take too personally, or like I may get triggered by things, I think it's coming from like a core belief that I'm not wanted or something. And my therapist was saying like usually core beliefs are developed when you're young, or even like an infant. And so I've been carrying this with me for so long. It's going to take some time to like heal that and like stop believing that about myself. So when you have a core belief like that, especially in times of like turbulence, it's so easy for me to only focus on the negative things. And I can't even like recall anything positive. Like I'm like, they don't love me. They don't care about me. Like this, and that. Like, and so, yeah, I also, a part of my homework this week is to write down all the ways that I am wanted, because in these times, I even told my therapist, like, I am now questioning my reality, because like, I feel like a lot of these things like are in my head. Like people do care about me. They do want me around. They do love me, but a lot of it's just in my head.
Yeah.
So mental health.
Yeah. Aw. Yeah. I mean, but if you start thinking, if you start trying to think of the positive ways and you can't think of a ton with people, don't try to think that they care, because some people really just don't fucking care. And if there's not a lot of easy things that you can remember, like you can remember a lot about your partner and the ways they show you that they care, like, but don't give people excuses and put your energy in people that literally don't care and try to make it seem like they do.
That's true.
You know, because I can see you doing that too, and giving people time and excuses and the space when they don't deserve it. So
yeah.
So yeah, now that you guys have gotten an insight on what Lacey and I argued about last week, which, you know, to go back into our guest would probably be a really funny skit. So Joanna, you are free to use that or something if you want. I'm just kidding. But yeah, guys, if you're interested in comedy and writing, Joanna writes for HBO. She writes for Disney. She's written for Netflix. She has her own podcast. YouTube channel. She's fucking amazing, hilarious, and I think you're really going to enjoy getting to know her a little bit more on this episode. So.
All of her stuff will also be linked down below if you want to like watch her things.
Yeah. So without further ado, I think let's get into the episode.
Wait, should we say, oh, here we go?
Oh, how do we usually do it?
Yeah, without further ado, oh, here we go. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Aww.
Today we have Joanna Hausmann. Am I saying her name right?
Hausmann.
Hausmann.
You're so close. It's more boring sounding than Hausmann. You know, it's just regular house and then a man.
Okay, yeah.
Well, hi.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for coming on. Seriously. Thanks for taking the time out to talk with us.
It's been a long time coming.
I'm a fan of you guys. So this is kind of like a celebrity sighting for me. But, it's a podcast sighting.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, how did we even like get connected? Because I feel like we've been communicating for like a year.
Oh my God. Okay, Lacey, I watched your season of
Okay.
America's Next Top Model, and you were by far, like, I was obsessed. I was like, oh my God, I love her. What is she up to now? And I'm like, oh my God, she's like matured into this incredible woman.
I have matured
She
a
isn't
lot.
just,
Thank you.
So it was that, and then I listened to the podcast. So yeah, we've been connected for like a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been trying to get you on for like a little bit.
Yeah.
Aww.
I was making it hard. I was making it difficult. I'm hard to get. That's the whole play for me.
I know you've been playing. What is it? Hard to get.
Yeah.
Like we gotta chase you.
What'd you say yesterday? Lacey said she was like, I don't have the luxury of a man chasing me. So
I've never had a man chase me. Like I don't even know what that's like.
Really?
Never.
Isn't that crazy?
That's bizarre. Wait, do you do the chasing then? Are you like, I like this one? I'm gonna go after it.
It's interesting because at dinner we were talking about the kind of men that I've been interested in or have dated, and they're quite interesting. They're not like a lot of them are just it would be surprising the type of men if you would see some of my past partner situations.
That's everybody.
It's kind of shocking, but yeah, like I have never had a man be like. You.
Oh, there's plenty out there. I promise you.
Yeah, I think there's some out there that you just don't notice, or something, because that's hard to believe.
Yeah.
I married my best friend who was like secretly in love with me for years, and it was very convenient.
Yeah.
That's convenient for everybody, I think.
Yeah. We got all the friend stuff out of the way already. We were roommates. I knew he wasn't crazy.
Oh,
and then we started
wow.
dating.
Okay.
So we did it in reverse.
Well,
That's like a TV.
We did it in reverse.
That's like a plot of like a TV show. It's like Joey loving Rachel, or like, you know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
I will say,
It totally is.
I'm like with my best friend now, and we were like friends for about 3 years. So
There we
that's
go.
Yeah. But
Aw.
again, I would like to say he was secretly in love with me, which I guess he ended up being because he got jealous of men that I was dating. So I guess that's like secret love. I don't know.
Yeah, that's pretty consistent with someone that was in love with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
Now I'm understanding. Lacey's saying that no man has like been after her, and then this piece of information. I'm starting to believe that. I think that she needs to be a little bit more aware of her surroundings.
Wow.
That's very true.
I was talking about this with my therapist this week. Well, we need to hop into you. Enough about me.
Okay, yeah. Introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do for our listeners.
Yes. So I'm Joanna Hausmann, not Hausmann, but I wish I was. And I am a comedian and writer. I started off in YouTube. I did a bunch of viral videos that got me, writing opportunities and on-camera opportunities. I was on Bill Nye's Netflix show, and I've written for stuff for HBO, and now I'm the head writer of a Disney show called Hamster and Gretel. I started off my career making comedy for Latinos in the States. I'm originally from Venezuela, so a lot of my comedy had to do with identity and who I was and navigating through that. And then, parlayed that into writing TV and making TV. And, here we are,
Wow.
life in the big city, babe.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, because you're in New York City right now?
Yes, I moved to LA in January. I've been holding on for dear life in New York as long as I could. But the Hollywood is beckoning, so I'm unfortunately. And maybe now that I have you guys as friends, maybe I'll like it more. LA is a scary place for me. I tried to walk every day. Actually, when I was writing on the HBO show, I was walking from my Airbnb in West Hollywood to my job in Hollywood. It was like a hour-long walk every day. And every day I'd see like either blood on the floor or someone would follow me. And I'm like, this is crazy. And then I'd get to work and my coworkers would be like, you're the only person in Los Angeles that thinks it's a good idea to walk from West Hollywood to Hollywood. Like, are you insane? So I got to get used to the car culture.
Yeah. You got that New York in you.
Yeah, a lot of people from New York. I live in Denver, and people from that area, they'll come to Denver and they'll be 40 years old and they still don't have a driver's license, and they don't know how to drive a car because there was no need for it there. It's just crazy.
But I learned how to drive in Caracas, Venezuela. Okay, and Caracas, Venezuela is, fun fact, the murder and kidnapping capital of the world. All right. So so I grew up there, and I did high school there, and I learned how to drive there. And what was crazy for me moving here was learning that like stop signs and stop lights were like, you had to follow them because back home they're just like a suggestion, because it's very dangerous to like sit in a red light at night. So red lights, you absolutely have to like drive through them. So here I failed my driver's test a few times.
Wow. I didn't even think about sitting at a red light being dangerous. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's weird.
Well, did you start writing originally? When did you start realizing you wanted to do writing?
So probably in middle school and high school, I moved around a lot. Every 2 years I'd be in a different school. And I moved countries and schools and this, that, and the other. And I always loved being a storyteller. It was kind of the way that I would make friends, and comedy was a way that I would avoid bullying, which I wasn't great at avoiding. So storytelling and talking about like, characters and myself and humor since middle school I was doing it, and I was writing plays in high school. And dealing with my anxiety, writing and acting were really a way for me to go through those difficult times. And I didn't realize that I wanted to specifically be a comedian until I went to Second City and I started studying comedy there, and I realized that yes, I'm a TV writer, but I think I identify very strongly as a comedian, because a comedian is a word that sort of holds so many different identities in it. It's like, you can be a performer, you can be a writer, you can be a director, you can be a producer. There's all these things you can be within that one word. And I just felt so comfortable being this storyteller and working on all these things. And sort of, I've always knew I wanted to write stories, though, like, ultimately. And I feel like really lucky I've been able to do it as a job. It's so weird to me. People pay me to write. It's bizarre. So, and it's been fun writing everything from, more late night to live action to animation. And I still have to learn. I have so much more to learn, but it's been crazy that even within all of these different facets of where I've been writing, comedy always seeps through. Like, I'm always seeking to find what's humorous in a scene or in a situation. And I've learned, and I don't know how you guys are, but in my life, in the hardest times, like when I had a crazy bike accident, I lost movement in both my arms for a year. Then I had skin cancer. I didn't have a cheek for a year.
What?
And during those times, it was crazy. But during those times, I was probably at my funniest. Like, it was all downhill from those traumatic moments. But like, difficult times for me are really fertile ground for comedy, because comedy is a weapon I use to go through life. And I feel really lucky that in my job, I use that weapon as work. It's finding the humor and the joke and the levity in life, and the same thing in the structure in a scene.
Yeah. Wow.
When did you get into Second City?
Oh man, oh God, that was so long ago. I'm like embarrassed to say how long ago it was, and then you'll know my age. 20, I graduated from college in 2011. Yeah, so 2011, I was there for about a year. And then I came to UCB, the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater here in New York. So, Second City, and I don't know if you guys know this, but Second City, and Upright Citizens Brigade are like competing comedy theaters. Like, I don't know, I'm not really into sports, but if there's like, what are some sports teams that are like always like the
Arkansas
Red Sox
and
and the Yankees?
Or like,
there we go.
For more relatable, like Lakers and I don't know. We're not sports people.
We have no idea what's going on in that world.
You could literally say anything and I'd believe it. You could say like the
Lakers
aliens
and
versus
Rams.
the candlelight holders, and I'd be like, absolutely, that's it. So like I started at Second City. Second City is like really like improv based. It's like basically improv, which is like you go up and you make up a scene with your scene partners. Really has a clear connection to sketch. So they use improv to write sketch comedy, which is like what you see on SNL. And then UCB, which is more New York type of comedy, is like, all right, get to the point. What's the funny of the scene? And it's more like theory based, which is like, I'm talking nerd comedy right now. No one cares.
Nerd science.
But I was at Second City was like the Amy Poehler's. Oh my God, so many people came out of there and I'm blanking. Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Horatio Sands. Oh no, Horatio Sands was actually, I think, UCB. And then UCB was more the Amy Poehler actually started at UCB after Second City. And anyways, they're two very big comedy theaters, and I was part of both of them. And during that time, though, I look like an Irish barmaid that narrowly escaped the potato famine. So for me to say I was Latina was like shocking to people. And for castings and stuff, like no one believed me. So for the first few years of my career, I literally avoided saying I was Venezuelan and Latina like a plague. I was like, I don't want to get into that conversation.
Wow.
I don't want people to ask and like look at me inquisitively and be like, what are you talking about? You speak English great, you know? Or, you know, what part of Mexico is Venezuela in? So I avoided identity pretty strongly, and like in my stand up I wouldn't even mention. I was just like a
Wow.
regular white girl from Connecticut. I don't know. I just thought of the whitest state.
Wow. And that was like a big part of your, didn't you say like, you know, as far as identity goes, that was a big part of your writing and comedy between the two? Like,
yeah, like when you started doing that.
and so whenever you came
Yeah.
to Second City and like all of that, that's kind of what you decided to just kind of be like, is that
Yeah,
right?
it was kind of like through life I kept on, every time I would bring up what I was, all it did was bring up more questions. And at the beginning of my comedy career, I wanted to just be seen as a comedian, and not be questioned about like, oh, wait, you're Venezuelan but you look like that, oh, your last name is Jewish, or are you Jewish, or you know, all these questions that make identity murky. I wasn't even born in Venezuela. I was born in England by accident. My parents were students there, and then I was born in spring break.
Wow.
So yeah, it's crazy. I'm not even, I can't even identify with an astrological sign, because I was born March 20th, which is where Pisces and Aries meet. So
Oh.
nothing about my identity is consistent or simple to explain.
Wow. It's really hard to get
but-
into Second City though, right?
Not for me. I mean, not for me because I'm great. I mean, not for the program I was in, which was
Okay.
like for like recently graduated kids who were theater nerds. And it was like, oh, they'll pretty much accept any theater nerd.
Okay.
As long as you give them money.
A friend of mine went there
but-
too, and he was saying that it was pretty hard to get into. And so I had never even heard of Second City, but I know it's like a very prestigious comedy school. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was it was like finding a piece of me that I felt was missing. It was like, oh, this is what I am. I'm a comedian. I've spent my whole life being a class clown and writing and acting out scenes. I didn't know what this was. I thought it was a personality disorder. Turns out it was just being a comedian.
I mean, do they teach you to
But
be
in-
funnier? Like, what do you do?
Yeah,
like,
like,
what do you?
they
what is
do.
it? What's in there?
Just like trusting your gut or like
Oh.
being quick on your toes. Like, how do they train you to be funnier?
You know, there is training, and a lot. It's
Wow.
interesting because when I did improv at UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade Theater here in New York, a lot of lawyers, doctors, and actually folks with some speaking impediments would take these improv classes because it sort of rewires your brain in a way that it does make you quick on your feet, and it makes you sort of pick up on the game of the sketch is sort of like, or the game of an improv scene is like a pattern. So your brain picks up on patterns a little quicker. It's hard to explain. I'm going to sound like such a nerd, but they do teach you techniques of, like, for example, escalation, right? So sometimes the thing that makes a joke the funniest is you hit that joke more than once, and every time you hit it, it escalates more. So, you know, if we did a scene where I say that, you know, oh, I really like Cher, and then, you know, the next beat of the joke is I start singing like Cher, and I'm like, oh, I'm not that obsessed with her. It's not. And then I come out of the bathroom dressed like Cher, and I'm like, no, I'm not that obsessed with her. I just like want to change into Cher. And then I come out, and then Cher's next to me. Like, that's escalating, right?
Oh,
That's like
wow.
bringing something absurd and escalating it. So escalation is something you learn in comedy.
Wow.
And then and yeah, like stuff like that. So there are techniques you can learn, but you know what you can't learn, and it took me a long time to learn. And what I tell every writer and every person that wants to start in the industry was, I was having no luck ignoring who I was and just following these, you know, very clear and concise strategies in comedy, and you know, escalation and the game of the sketch and the setup punchline and all of these things that you can learn to be a better writer and a better comedian. But no one cares unless you are being authentic to yourself, right?
Right.
the funniest comedians and the funniest people and the best writers are those that mine from their own experience and leave it out on stage or on a piece of paper. So in 2012 or 2013, I don't remember exactly when, I actually did a stand-up that I wrote about my mom being like a Jewish Latina mom and how intense and insane that is. And it was after that I started finding that my comedy was resonating with people. So all of these things are important, but then also being really true to yourself and finding what's special about you and your point of view is equally as important in writing comedy.
Wow. Yeah, I just saw Dave Chappelle last week in Denver, and
Oh my God.
it's so good. And I mean, that's pretty much what he does. Like, he literally started off by saying Kanye's in some fucking shit now, and and they're friends, and he was like, you're in trouble. You're in trouble when your own friends don't even want to call you because they're like, fuck, and it's just like, and he's just literally talking about anything or like his day or something like that. And you just, that reminded me of that. We did want to ask if you did do stand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do it super regularly. It's almost like a necessary evil, I say. Stand-up is, and I've been a comedian for over 10 years, and stand-up is still terrifying to me. I still, before a show, feel like I'm going to die.
Yeah, I mean, that's so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
God.
Because what if the audience doesn't resonate with what you're saying?
They're brutal, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, stand-up is so interesting because it's scripted, right? It's, in a way, it's scripted. You go with you have your set. But unlike, when you write a script where it's like, I'm going to perfect this to the point of like the highest level I can, and then I'm going to submit it, and that's the final draft. When you do sets as a comedian, it's written, but it all depends on the audience, how you, one, perform it, two, change it. Like, you have to think on your feet.
Yeah.
You have to be really, really alert. And writing as you go, you have to be improvising. So I think it's like one of the hardest types of performances. And also it's like there's a stool and a microphone. You have like nothing to distract the audience. Like, you don't have like hot backup dancers. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have a dope background. You have nothing.
It's like a velvet
I went to see like a velvet curtain, which is like pretty for a second to look at, but I'm not,
When you were talking about like bringing yourself and authenticity to writing, it made me think of sometimes when I'm watching TV, I can't really pinpoint what makes something bad. I'm like, is it the writing? Is it the way that it's shot? Is it bad acting? As someone who's kind of done it all, like, what would you say that, like, when you see something bad, I guess there's different reasons as to why something's bad, but like, what would you say that it could be?
A lot of the times when things are bad, there's a couple things. One is I don't care. Like, I'm watching and I'm like, I do not care about this character.
Yeah.
And like in Seinfeld, it's like, oh, they're like terrible people. But I kind of do care. I'm like, how does this fit in with each other for the end? Like, I'm not saying you have to just care about the character, just care about a plot, but like, I need to care. And I think a lot of times when things are bad, it doesn't pull on your human heartstrings or brain strings to care.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of the time when I watch things specifically on TV, because like stand-up is like, it can be really bad, it can be really good, but you know that you're getting the purest form of the artist's point of view. Like, there's no director that's like changing the camera. I mean, you have like stand-up specials that are directed, and I understand that, but a director has a lot more input in like a television series or a movie. You don't have like a set designer that's like, it's very pure. Stand-up is very pure. But then with TV and movies, you have so many people bringing their talents and bringing their artistic perspective into it that sometimes when something is bad, what I see is like, oh, the directors, the writers, and the performers are almost like working on different shows.
Oh.
Like,
okay.
do you know, think about it.
They're
like,
not in alignment.
There's some shows where I'm like, this is not funny. The actors aren't playing this funny. It's not shot funny. but the script itself, if I read it, I would think it's funny. So the director and the writers and the actors are not working on the same show, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
So I think that's also a big telltale sign.
I think, is that like why people like Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, like really big actors, they keep working with the same group of people sometimes? Like even with people in American Horror Story, those actors still all kind of work together in other projects too. And it's because when you get a group of people together and they
works.
make one really good thing, they kind of all work well. It's kind of like when me and you get together, it's our best work. So I guess like that makes sense. Yeah. You kind of just find a crew and sticks together. But yeah.
Yeah, and you know that they get it. They know that they get your perspective and point of view, and you know, God, I just did a shoot. I can't say what it's for, but the director like just didn't understand, and not in a, I'm not like shaming him, but I just don't think he had any comedy training. So he didn't understand how to direct the actors in a way that like created awkward pauses and like timing. He was thinking of things almost like lyrically, like, oh, I like the rhythm of this, like keep the rhythm up. I'm like, no, comedy functions when like rhythm is sort of like staccato and not even like, but it's hard to explain. He comes from a music video background, and you know, I don't think I could direct a music video, but like he came just with his music-y understanding of scenes, and like it just didn't fit with what was on the page, which is awkward and beats and like you know, stuff not fitting right. And that's where a lot of comedy comes from, is things not fitting correctly, while stuff like music videos, everything just fits
beautiful.
It's like smooth and beautiful, and you know, looks great and sounds great, and people look like they know what they're doing, and that's not the case for comedy, you know?
Yeah. When it comes to like writing for different things, like I know you're writing for Disney, and you've done, I don't know if you're currently writing for HBO Max, but if you are, do you have different roles for each?
So in the other shows I worked on, I've been like, you know, just a writer in the room. And then for the Disney show, I'm a head writer and co-producer, meaning I sort of am given responsibilities beyond just writing scripts. So like the head writer of a lot of shows, what they do is they look at the big picture. So I have to assign writers stories for them to write, and I have to make sure that the arcs of the character, like the character at the beginning of a season can't be the same as at the end of a season. Like we have to see our characters evolve and change. So, you know, charting that change and making sure it's consistent through the episodes. And also making sure that like the tone, like every person has their own sense of humor and their own strengths and weaknesses. And a writer's room almost works like as a brain. And every person brings a different element to the room. So you work together as a team a lot. But as a head writer, you got to make sure that the tone is consistent. So you can't have an episode that's written by a guy that loves sci-fi and it's like a sci-fi episode. And then you have a guy that wrote for Family Guy and it feels like a Family Guy episode. No, the show has a tone and a you know, a point of view and a perspective, and you have to make sure that tone is kept consistent. So that's sort of like a big part of what I do on the Disney show. And, you know, animation is so different from live action. Like regular TV shows that we see, it has a very different, like as a writer, you have a very different relationship with the script, because once you're done with the script, you're done with the script. You're off to shoot, and you have actors on set. And then once you finish shooting, you're done. But in animation, it's very different. You have many versions of the animation come back to you. So you have many opportunities to rewrite and perfect. And in animation, in contrast to live action, I'd say timing is even more important. And getting that timing right is like of the utmost like it's of the essence. So while like for in the animation show that we're in right now, we get like 5 versions of the animation back to us in different versions. And after each version, we kind of like look at the script again. And either it's a big rewrite or it's a small rewrite or it's a joke punch up. But we're like, we have more time with each episode, it feels.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Oh, so you get you essentially like write it and then you get the animation back. But then when it comes to making changes, you have to make sure it still fits within the animation.
Sometimes. So we actually this is going to get boring, but I'm going to try and make it fun. So we write a script, right? And we're like, oh my God, this script's amazing. I love it. I'm going to send it to the storyboard artists. The storyboard artists take it and then they make a really, really, really like raw and crude little drawing version of what they think. This is called the thematic of what they think visually the episode's going to look like. So it's not a full animation. It's like, just drawings. It's almost like pictures. Before like the pandemic, they would just put pictures on a whiteboard and just walk us through it. Now they actually do like a little video. So there we have a chance to change the animation. So, we did an episode where we were like, we're going to maybe fully rewrite the last half and so not use any of these ideas. And so then after that, we get a boardmatic, which is like a slightly more a detailed version, but still pretty crude of the animation. And then we can still make some changes. And then we get an animatic, which is sort of like right before we go to full animation, we get an animatic and we still can make changes in animatic.
Wow.
And then it's sent overseas to where the actual like animators are.
Wow.
Because what we work with at Disney are storyboard artists who are like the directors. So they have like, they draw out what they want visually, but then the animators overseas are the ones that like frame by frame go and color in every frame and send it back to us. So that was probably super boring.
No,
but,
I'm like,
but
I've always wanted to know.
Movie magic.
Yeah.
Movie magic, baby. Yeah.
Have you seen major shifts with Disney over the past few years?
What I have seen is definitely a push to incorporate more female voices and people of color into, not just in casting, but in higher levels of creating shows so that it's, I don't think trickle down economics worked for Reagan, but trickle down diversity does work, in that if you put someone from a diverse background or, with an interesting point of view and perspective, if you put them kind of high up in the production totem pole, it ends up restructuring and reconfiguring every other position below them, and you see sort of diversity happen like naturally. So I've seen that in this show and some other shows that my friends are working on, where it's like, this is a super interesting group of people working on this, like super international, very high female representation. I don't know what's going on with like Disney as like a big corporation, because I've heard things aren't that great on that end or whatever. I don't really read those news, but in terms of productions, like I've definitely seen a push to tell stories that kids will relate to, and kids now and back then, but specifically now even more. I mean, there's kids come from mixed families and mixed races and divorced families and speaking different languages at home, and all these things are now being more appropriately represented. And I think it's because of the creators and the people they've chosen to work on these shows.
Have you being like, do you have to keep your own social media on Disney like PG?
No.
Oh, that's good. Oh my gosh.
Good.
I say the F word in every video I've ever made. You know how Brad Pitt's always eating in his movies, and how Matthew McConaughey always says like, all right.
Yeah.
I just say the F word in everything I've ever made. So working for like a kids, quote unquote, kids TV show, it was weird. But for me, like personally, like, I'm I work outside of this show too. So, I'm not going to, and I know Disney hired me knowing exactly who I was. Actually, even my hat that I'm wearing right now says "fuck the sun." So that's how on brand I am right now.
Wow. Yeah, I always wondered like when they cast for, and it might be different for like people like internal versus like on camera. Does it matter like the type of person, like who they are in?
Because you're having issues with that, right? Like with acting and
Really?
everything.
Well, I don't know. I am trying to, get in the Hollywood gates. But yeah, I always wondered like, do I need to look out for my social media? Like, is it too sexy? Like, do I need to like tone it down a little bit? Like, I just don't know like what's appropriate.
I feel like we're entering this age with like like when it comes to acting and like finding people and casting people, like people are looking at social media now and like they're like that influencer look into the acting world is like people are gonna have to start being okay. I mean, that's just like the younger generation grew up that way. Like they grew up with phones and social media, and Gen Z is just, you can act, but they also like, Gen Z also has
a brand
and like social media. And it's just like, I don't know. I was thinking about that yesterday with your social media too. Cause I was like, well, I mean, she's getting into acting and she's worried about her social media, but I'm like, there has to be so many amazing actors that are your age that just have a intense social, not intense, but like a social media presence, like,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Does it matter? Like, what's your opinion?
I mean, I think that, even now how we cast voices on our show is so different than what it was years ago, where, Dan Povenmire, who created the show I'm working on, he did Phineas and Ferb. And he's big on TikTok because he's Gen Z's Bill Nye is what I say.
Wow.
Which is funny because I also worked for Bill Nye, and now I work for Gen Z's Bill Nye, who's nothing to do with science, but he's like the dad everyone thinks is their dad. So Dan is big on TikTok, and we bring in a lot of talent through TikTok, which is unheard of. Like if you had told me like 15 years ago that that's what casting was going to be like, I also would be 17, so I probably wouldn't care, but I probably wouldn't have believed it. But I feel like social media is uniquely positioned now, and it's the way you probably will book. I mean, it's how I got into the industry. And if you're worried about what other people are thinking and saying, then you're not being authentic to yourself, right? So if you're just like authentically doing what you like and content you are comfortable with, then you're going to end up with jobs that fit you. But if you're oh no, I have to be careful with what I post and this, that, and the other, and maybe this and maybe that, that's not you though. So social media is very personality driven.
Yeah.
And the person can fit many roles, but it's you're branding yourself. And I say just keep doing what you like to do, and it'll end up being fruitful. And also I would piss off many people if I told you to stop being hot on social media. I think you're
yeah.
I would be canceled immediately. Yeah, I mean, hello, me too. I'd be like, excuse me, where's my art?
You know what's funny about you mentioning the TikTok thing? My manager was speaking to Lee Krieger, who directed the You series on Netflix. He owns Riverdale, owns like Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And he didn't ask for my headshots or my acting reel. He goes, send me her TikTok. And I was like, really?
No way.
I was like, but don't you want to see my shit though? Like, I don't get it.
That's why I was like, is that the new thing? I don't know.
It is. I think it is. I think it's, I mean, there's, people always talk about how to make it in Hollywood, almost like as if it were like there's steps and there's a map and there's a highway and everyone needs to get on this highway and follow this map to get there. But it's more like getting to the top of a mountain and there's a bunch of different paths and there's just a variety of ways for you to get in there. And I think something that bothered me a lot in the beginning of my career that I wish I could tell myself back then not to worry about, is that people will tell you what's the right way and the wrong way of getting into the industry. And I think it's great to listen to advice, but there's something about how you feel in your gut about what you think is right for you. And I think I tell this to young writers and actors all the time, which is like, just because Amy Poehler made it this way doesn't mean you will. Just because Tina Fey made it this way doesn't mean you will. You're going to chart your own path. That's going to be totally different. And that's okay. So, you know, I auditioned, I did like a performance for, you know, SNL casting a few years ago. I bombed. It was so bad. I was the worst stand-up I'd ever done. It was like embarrassing. I was like, I ruined my career. And no, it just wasn't the right fit. And then other things came my way, and I got to where I am through an absurd like back path in the mountain that no one heard about. And now I'm on another path with other people, but I took a little shortcut through some thorns, and now I'm here.
I love that.
I still have scars, but I'm here.
Yeah, I wanted to know, with how did you get to this level of being like a head writer for a Disney show? Because I know multiple actors or writers in LA that write multiple screenplays and short films.
I mean, this is a competitive market.
Like,
right?
how did you get in there?
Oh my God, girl. Oh, girl. The story I'm about to tell. It all began with a gun. I'm kidding.
I don't know if we've laughed this hard on an interview, that's for sure.
Yeah. You're great at what you do.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. I'm going to cancel my therapy session for today. Thank you. You know, the way I got to the way I've gotten my other writing gigs is very traditional, right? It's like my agent sent my pilot and then they liked it. I interviewed and then I worked. But this opportunity, I'd say I probably wasn't prepared for it. I'd worked on, I think, 2 or 3 other shows before this. Like, you know, I'm relatively young, and I was in shock when I was offered the position, but the way that I was offered the position is a back road way. So I started making YouTube videos in 2013 or 14, being very authentic, as I said earlier, to myself and to my identity, and specifically made a lot of videos about being Venezuelan-American. And one day I log on to my like YouTube, like comment section, whatever, and I get a comment from this guy called Dan Povenmire, and he's like, "Hey, I created Phineas and Ferb, you know, Disney's biggest hit. My wife is Venezuelan, and I think you're really fun. Want to grab like an arepa, which is a Venezuelan sandwich. Want to grab an arepa when you're here in LA?" And I was like, "Oh my God, amazing. Yeah." So I responded to him. I had a flight to LA the next week, coincidentally. And I'm texting with him. I'm like, "Great, I'll meet you." He's like, "Meet me at my house and we'll go grab arepas." And I'm telling the Uber driver out loud, like, "Yeah, this guy like left me a comment on my YouTube channel and now I'm going to go meet him." And he's like, "Ma'am, you're going to get murdered. Like, are you insane?"
That's what I'm thinking too.
And yeah. Surprise, I'm a ghost. And I arrive and it is actually Dan. I meet his wife, I meet his kids, and we really start a friendship there. And I sort of started seeing him as a mentor. So every time I'd write a script, I send it his way. I'd like keep in touch with him regarding my career, but also my personal life. Like, he just became a friend. I didn't want anything from him other than friendship and advice, you know, from someone that's been in the industry for very long. I honestly didn't want him to give me a job. I didn't want that from him. I wanted to have a genuine connection. And then during the pandemic, he sold this other show idea, Hamster and Gretel. And he called me and was like, "I've been reading your stuff for years. I've been watching your content for years, and I know you can do it. And I just want you to be my head writer."
Wow.
So it was all thanks to a YouTube comment 10 years ago.
And you are like, right. 'Cause he connected because his wife is Venezuelan and you're, I mean, that's so great. Wow. Oh my God.
if I had been continued to hide that part of me because I was afraid of, my branding or what people thought of me or, exterior people assuming things about me or whatever the F, then I would never have been here.
Wow.
Right.
So yeah, it's a lesson of just do things you really want to do and fuck everyone else.
Well, there's something that I remembered from, because I love Jim Carrey, and he said that he uses comedy as a way to cope with anxiety. And I'm sure, I don't know if you relate to that or not, but you mentioned the bullying thing, but I wonder, he also mentioned he was married to that, I cannot remember her name, but I know she was a porn star. And
I didn't know this.
Yeah, he was married to her, and the biggest issue they had or something was that he could not turn the comedy off in their relationship. And I was going to ask you about that. Like, are you able to turn off comedy within your settings, or is it just who you are?
I mean, I think, I also use comedy as a way to not avoid vulnerability, but actually to be more vulnerable.
Ooh.
So, for example, when I was in the operation, I walked into my operation room. I had skin cancer in 2020. I had a tumor in my face that was like 5 inches long, and they had to remove it and then do reconstructive surgery. But anyway, that's another podcast episode.
Wow.
Anyway, I walked into the OR and I started making jokes, but they weren't like, oh, hey, what's up, guys? It was like making jokes about how nervous I was. Like, I like using comedy to be very honest about myself, and to bring people in, not to like protect myself and have people not see me. So I don't know if I shut down the comedy per se. I mean, you're saying I've been funny this conversation, but I don't know how funny I've been.
We think you've been great.
I think I think Jim Carrey's like performances for me, I'm like, oh, that's not Jim Carrey. He's doing a character, right? So I don't know what he was like in his personal life with his porn star, but for me, my comedy is very, like, come here, let me tell you my deepest, darkest secrets and be honest about it. And comedy helps me not be afraid to be vulnerable. But it's not a shield against vulnerability for me.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I love that. Wow.
Yeah.
You do find that it is a way to help with like anxiety and you said you use like comedy as a way to connect with people. I use photography as a way to connect with people. I'm like, oh, let's do a photo shoot, like that's a way for both people to be vulnerable. So I don't know. I just feel like
oh my God, I love that.
Podcast too. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I want you to take pictures of me one day.
I would die, please.
Yeah, when you move here.
Yeah, when you're here. I'm out here all the time.
I'm moving there in January, so I can make jokes. Lacey will teach me how to like pose and then you take pictures.
Oh my God. We'll just do like a Playboy shoot of you two. How about that?
Yeah,
we'll do
just
both.
throw you in there.
Oh my God, yeah. I would absolutely love. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Lacey, I think it's really cool what you do. I've done photo shoots and I think that's the most uncomfortable I ever am. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I always say people don't know what they know and people don't realize what they're good at because they just are.
Wow, yeah.
They just are that.
Yeah.
Both taking photos takes enormous talent and an artistic eye, and then being vulnerable in that way in front of a camera, like looking like having complexity in how you look, but also like the sexy, like empowered vibe. Like I don't know how to do that. Like I literally and I want to, I'd love to, but I just, it's the most, I think it's like how maybe some people feel about being funnier, getting on stage and doing stand-up. It's like, and I'm afraid of doing stand up, so that says a lot. But like for me, the vulnerability of being in front of a camera and not telling a joke is scary. Like it scares me to death.
Oh,
wow.
wow. I didn't even think about that. Damn.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like it is funny. Like we don't really realize our own talents because we're just living in it. But
Yeah, we're just doing it.
yeah, like I remember I like hopped on a live stream and my boyfriend got like pretty quiet. And as we got off the live stream, he was like, I can't do that shit. And he was like, that was a therapy session for you. And I just feel so at home, like speaking vulnerably online or in front of the camera. Like it's so odd how I'm just like ready to go.
Yeah.
You're an open book. You're an open book. It comes with how your career began, though. Like being open, you have to be open and vulnerable in modeling, but then in all the other aspects of your career, you also have to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And you have to put yourself out there. So you learn that through, the other facets of your career. It's interesting to see it so diametrically different than like a comedian, but it's similar. It's very similar.
Have you had to, how has it been working with the comedic shifts over the years with, I know that The Office wouldn't work in today's, that's what I hear, like The Office wouldn't work in today's TV. I mean, I think The Office is the greatest show of all time, but
I do too.
Yeah, well,
too.
With like how what am I trying to say? Like with how
I think I know what you're saying.
Okay,
it's like
Thank God.
there's a talk right now about comedy, right? And it's like what's okay to joke about and what's not okay to joke about, right?
Right.
And I think it's much simpler than people are making it out to be. I think comedy's getting better because there's this concept in comedy called punching up and punching down. Okay. So can someone tell and this is an example I give to my satire class, which is, can someone tell a rape joke? Everyone has said, this is known they've talked about this for years. Is it possible to make a funny rape joke? Can it be funny? Can something so horrifying be funny? And it all depends on who's saying it to whom and for what purpose. So jokes don't exist in an ether. Jokes don't exist in like a deprivation tank. Someone is saying it to someone else. So, for example, Sarah Silverman has a rape joke where she says, I was once raped by a doctor, which is bittersweet for a Jewish girl. That's funny. That's funny because it's not making fun of victims, right?
Right.
If you're making fun of victims, that's not going to be funny. So Sarah Silverman is sort of poking fun at herself while revealing something vulnerable. So she's kind of like not punching down. Punching down is when you use humor to belittle or make fun of someone with less power than you. Punching up is making jokes to make fun of those with more power or concepts with more power. So politicians, that's punching up. Punching, like self-deprecation, making fun of yourself is always funny because no one's going to be mad at you for making fun of yourself. So I think we're learning these terms and these things. And I always say, if a joke is funny enough, it can get through anything. So, but being that level of funny is very hard. So a good way to think about it is it's like a bow and arrow, and it's like you are aiming at something and how hard you're going to aim it and to whom. And that's what jokes are. So that's what I think. It's really not that hard. It's just thinking about the context of the joke and who's saying it.
Being smarter than that. Yeah.
Like would you say like a lot of like 90s and early 2000s comedy was a bunch of punching down?
I've been rewatching a lot of stuff and I'm like, oh, this is a lot of, I think, white dudes. And like, hey, every time I say white dudes get angry. I don't mean it and like I hate white dudes. I'm saying that if you were writing comedy in that time, you were probably someone who was a white guy surrounded by other white guys. So you didn't have people to bounce your jokes off of.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like right now in my writer's room, I have people that are very different than me, and I'll pitch a joke and they'll be like, that's not going to fly. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think that like, yeah, I see a lot of jokes and humor and stuff from that era, which was like making fun of women and making fun of gay people. And that's because there were no women and gay people writing the freaking jokes. And now
so
that there
true.
are,
Such a good
there
point.
are funny gay jokes and funny jokes about women because they're written by the right people, because they're funny. Because you can't it's hard to write a funny joke when you don't have the right context for it. It's what we've been talking about, which is like who you are is so important in what you create. And jokes are the same. And comedy's the same. Like comedy is so inextricably linked to who you are that like, you know, that's I think why so many of these movies age so poorly.
Yeah, because you
There's
have
just
to
a
have
bunch of punching down.
You have to have so many people involved in comedy to make different types of comedy. Wow. Do you still think shows like Friends are funny? Friends is funny.
I love Friends.
I do too. Okay.
Because
I'll
you
still
know what
watch
it is,
it.
and
It's like that comedy, that writing aged well to me.
it really did. And by the way, The Office, I think, you know why it works? Is because Michael Scott, who's the most problematic character, is problematic in his world. So in the world of The Office, he's not a Barney from How I Met Your Mother, who's like venerated for being like this crazy misogynist, you know, and that's like weird to me to rewatch. But in The Office, Michael Scott is saying all these like sexist, fatphobic, horrible things, but the people in the world that he lives in are shitting on him for it. So it works.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? He's not a hero in his world. He's the opposite of a hero. He's an idiot.
That's so true.
So the joke is him. The joke isn't the people he's making fun of. The joke is himself being an idiot.
Yeah.
So it works. It does work.
Aw.
Who is your favorite comedian of all time, and also your favorite show to watch as far as comedy goes?
Gosh. My favorite comedian. I really like John Mulaney.
Okay.
I don't know of all time. I go through phases. I think right now I recently watched John Mulaney's last stand-up, and you know, I don't think it's on streaming or anything. I saw it live, but it was really vulnerable. It was like basically his speaking openly about his addiction and his recovery and all that. And so he was talking about the most traumatic moment of his life in such an interesting, smart way. And I really love that. I wasn't a huge John Mulaney fan until that. But I think Amy Poehler has always been for me an example of someone who is not only hyper talented and so funny, but she produces female comedians content and shows and brings other women into the fold with her and propels other people's careers forward with her. So I really love her. Oh God, there's so many. And then as like a producer director type, like Judd Apatow is, if I met Judd Apatow, I think I would absolutely die. I think I would die. I think I would implode into a black hole. Oh God, there's so many others, but it's hard to pinpoint one, but I think Amy was the one that I saw as a kid and I was like, I want to be that. And she has never let me down. Like she's never let me down. She's always great.
That's
and
great.
kind. And a kind person is what I hear. It's just like a good person to work with, which, you know, a lot of people, when we talk about success in Hollywood and all these things and blah, 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 like no one really discusses the kindness factor. But I think for career longevity, being kind is the best thing you could be. And so, you know, unfortunately I found out many people I like are not kind, but in the past few years I think we all have. But you know, people that have been able to hold on and remain being good folks, I think are my heroes.
Well, piggybacking off of that, in this industry as a creator, like how do you kind of keep your balance and take care of your mental health?
Well, you know, I think it's important to hang out with those that wouldn't care if you weren't doing what you're doing. And that's hard to come by at times. But like, if I dropped everything and became a farmer, there's some people in my life that probably would just not be interested in talking to me. So the people that would not care and say like, "Oh, I'll go milk some cows with you," those are my
Aw.
true friends, and I spend as much time possible with those people.
Mm.
I'm interested to hear what you guys do, because I tried meditation, and I tried what is it called when you're like being present. There's a
Mindfulness?
term for this. Mindfulness.
Yes.
I tried it. I tried it, and I tried it for like weeks, and it wasn't working. And then I talked to my therapist, and he's like, "I can't believe you tried that. I would never have told you to try it. You have the opposite personality and brain for it." Like,
Same.
I love to keep busy. I mean, you too. I can't
Yes.
do it. You can't do
I
it.
can't do it. I tried. I might have ADHD so bad that I'm just like, and I know that that's the point, but like literally my brain doesn't do it, and I need to stay busy to stay happy, and like, yes, yeah. If I'm busy, that's then my brain is zoned out, and then I'm like, then I'm
Yeah.
meditating. So
I haven't given like meditation a fair shot. Like, I just find myself sitting there and I just am like,
I get stressed.
what's the point? Like, in my head, I would rather be like reading a book or doing like just sitting outside thinking. Like, I don't really like to, like, I just haven't been able to really connect with it. Like,
I'm also not a yoga person either. I'm like,
I could do yoga.
I don't have time for this. What is everybody doing? Like, I need to be working. Like, and that's where I'm happy. I'm happy being busy and
Yes.
moving. Yeah.
We're the same person.
Okay. Do you have ADHD too?
I have ADHD, and I think there's this whole talk now. I think it's like cool and in to be into mindfulness and into meditation, and it's almost perceived as like lesser than to not be able to do those things. But my therapist was the one that told me, and it's like, that is ridiculous. Brains are so different. And if being busy and doing errands and stuff like gives you peace, then like that's amazing. Like, I wish I was like that. Like, go for it. If that gives you peace, do whatever gives you peace. Like, what is this saying about therapy where it's like, know the things you can change. I'm like butchering this, but it's like, know the things you can change about yourself, know the things you can't, and then know the difference between those two. It's not
I
like
know what
that,
you're talking about.
yeah.
Yes, I know that quote. I don't know if that's the exact way, but I know exactly what you're talking about, and I resonate with that as well.
And it's like, you're never going to change the way that your brain likes to relax and likes to sort of find peace. And anxiety for me finds its peace when I'm keeping busy and seeing my friends.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is like part of our job as a human is we literally have to figure out ourselves. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, is that why I did something? Or is this what I like? Like, it's part of it. Like, I feel like there's two entities, and I'm like, what do you want? Like,
That's why
what is it?
it's so important to be raised to be emotionally aware of yourself, because if you don't, then you spend a good chunk of your later life not being emotionally aware, and you're just kind of like lost, and you can like hurt people or yourself, or not like physically, but maybe, but like emotionally, just kind of like wasting time when you could have been ahead of the game, you know? So, have you ever?
I love how Lacey. I love how Lacey said there's like two people, because that's so true. Like, being able to look at yourself from an outside perspective is, I think, the biggest strength. And I think, you know what they say is, well, they don't say it, I say it. Writers, our job is to think about a character, right? And then think about everything that can go wrong about that character.
Wow.
So we're wired to be anxious, because that's what anxiety and neurosis is thinking about everything that can go wrong. If there was a TV show where everything went right, it would be so boring. So writers, we constantly have to think about all the things that can go wrong. That's very anxiety inducing. And that is like, we do it from an outside perspective, right? Like, we're like, how can this character do things wrong and mess things up for themselves and put themselves in this situation? And then I started realizing that therapy is like the same, but for yourself.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's thinking about yourself like as a character.
Wow. Yeah, that's so true.
I feel like I am a little character.
Yeah.
Like, it is funny. Like, I'm just like just literally trying to figure out myself every day, like, and why I am the way
That's
that I am.
amazing.
Like, I think that's a big part of therapy.
And a lot of people don't ask themselves that. They just like keep going along and they're just like, oh, I did that. That's fine. You know, they don't ask themselves why they did it. That's good.
That's very true.
Have you ever tried psychedelics?
I've tried mushrooms once. And I don't know if I'm gonna try it, but my therapist was talking to me about he has students and he has students that actually do MDMA therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I want to do that.
Yeah, and apparently it's like, you know, what he was explaining to me is like shrooms is more of like an internal therapy session where you even go blindfold and you sort of look within yourself because what I mean, you know more than I do. You talk to someone who's an expert. But like correct me if I'm wrong. It opens up the neural pathways in your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can think about things differently.
Yeah. Because, I mean, and that's like a big theory about how we got here, like through evolution, is like monkeys ate mushrooms, like found them and just ate them, and it caused them to like start thinking differently.
Wow,
you know,
I
and
didn't
like
think
over
about that.
time, like it just caused that other, you know what I
No
mean?
way.
I
Think
guess
about it. Yeah.
I haven't
like,
really thought deeply into evolution. I'm like, yeah, fucking monkeys.
That's
But
a
I'm like,
big thing.
oh,
It's like it
yeah.
caused monkeys to start thinking differently and opening up another part of their brain they wouldn't be able to do sober. And so in cognitive thinking and like over time, you know, like I mean, if I was a monkey just chilling, I'd be like all the time, you know, and over time that'll do something.
Wow.
So anyway,
Also, mushrooms are so weird. One mushroom's like it goes great in your omelet. Another mushroom's like you're gonna look at space, and then another mushroom's like you're gonna die. Like I don't understand how we survived.
Right?
they're like little like Russian roulette cards out there. But
Valentine's Day candy.
if you to kind of go back to your writing, like if you could write a script for your dream project, what actors and what team would be involved?
I'm gonna be a narcissist. I want to cast myself. But then I'd want to bring in all the comedians I've been working with from the start of my career. So I've had like a bit of a crew that we've sort of over the past 10 years we've been working in separate fields, like within the comedy space together and supporting each other and helping each other and working with each other. I'd want to bring literally everyone. I want to bring all my friends.
Aww.
And then definitely produced by or directed by Judd Apatow. Have Amy Poehler be involved. I want Pamela Adlon to be a character. I think at the core though, I think I just want people who believed in what I wanted to make, which is hard. So I think with my friends, I can convince them.
Yeah.
Aww. Wow.
I mean, have you had to face a lot of hardships and struggles in this industry, especially just being a woman?
I always say that, like, I've failed 99% of the time. And I don't mean that as an exaggeration. I literally mean 99% of the time I have not booked the gig. I've auditioned and I don't get it. I've submitted specs, scripts, and writer's packets, which are basically like, you know, a writing test for late night shows. And I've gotten rejected. I'd say, okay, let's say 97% of the time is failure. I think I've succeeded 3% of the time, but no one really sees the 97%, and we don't see other people's 97%. And the days I feel most down on myself are the days where I feel like I'm the only one that is going through it 97% of the time. So I think, you know, some of the hardest parts of our careers, and especially in the artistic field, is like you think careers come with big events and big moments when it's actually like every day builds on it, and being happy with what you successfully did in a day, whether that be writing one page or like sending that email to that producer to like make that connection, you know, responding to that YouTube comment, all those little things that seem so like useless, and like maybe at the end of the day you're like, I accomplished nothing. Those end up adding up
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and adding up to that big moment. So that big moment could not happen without all those other little moments that you were doing in that 97% of the time.
Yeah, that's so
Wow.
true. Like I've been saying, like I think I've always known, like to live kind of in LA or be in a field like this. It takes a long time to kind of build this with every person you meet, with everything that you do. And as a creator, like a lot of the things we do, we literally just create, and it's not because we got booked on a job, or it's not because we're getting paid for a job. We like kind of, like Stephanie always says, like throw a bunch of things at a wall until it sticks. Yeah, like you audition for 100 things and you might get one, maybe two. Yeah, I just think that it is important to kind of remember that everybody's in this same boat. Like we're in the 97%.
You're in the 97%, and we got to be open about it.
Yeah.
Because it sucks a lot of the time.
Yeah.
What are you currently, like, what's in the works for you as far as like what you're working on right now or in the future?
So I'm still working on the Disney show, and I'm developing some other projects with some really awesome folks, and I hope we see it. We hope it makes it to that 3%. And auditioning a lot, and I think being open to what is coming, and like being okay with not being sure about what's next, because I think sometimes life's biggest moments and surprises are also like the least expected. It's like, oh my god, what, I'm gonna do what now? So you know what they say, life's what happens when you're busy making other plans. So I have plans, but I'm waiting for life to happen too.
Aw.
But well, I wanted to ask before we start like wrapping things up, like as far as your writing process, what is that like? Because I mean, I just remember reading like how J.K. Rowling like wrote Harry Potter on a napkin in a coffee shop. Like, what is the starting process like for you?
Oh my god, can I just say, I fucking hate these stories about writers that are like they're like the impossible. One of those writers comes out every generation. I hate those stories where it's like, did you hear that they thought of the entire concept of this film trilogy on the toilet and they just wrote it in an hour. I'm like, go fuck yourself, okay? Like, there's no way. I think, I'm going to be honest. I feel like I have to trick myself into writing because I love having written and I don't like writing. Which is something that every writer has to explain, which is like, I don't like the act of looking at a blank page it's like looking at a precipice. And then once you're in it, okay, it's fine. And then once you wrote it, it's like, oh my God, it's like hiking. It's like hiking. So for me, and I say, I like, it's not enjoyable until you can rest. So for me, it's like, I like putting, when I'm at, I always say that, when I'm working, when I'm being paid to do what I do, that's like vacation time because I have deadlines and I have to wake up and just create. And when you are waiting for inspiration, you're never going to end up writing. So inspiration happens when you're forced to write. So when I don't have a gig, when I'm like in between jobs and I'm, freelancing or whatever, that's when the real work is because I have to force myself to write. And I force myself to write by putting deadlines. So I'll like literally write my manager and be like, hey, I'm working on a pilot. I'm going to have it ready by next Friday. I'll send it your way. I haven't even started it, but now I know I have to send it by next Friday. And then I do it. So it's kind of like forcing yourself to hike. You got to do it and it sucks. And like when you don't like it, that doesn't mean you're not doing it right. It means you're doing something hard. And when you're doing something hard, it means that you're learning and you're growing. So I just force myself. I force myself to do it.
How do you deal with writer's block? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I met she was the head writer for Samantha Bee's show, Full Frontal, and she had worked on The Daily Show. Her name is Jo. And Jo, she I wrote to her one day. I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to write. And she said, take a hot shower or go for a walk. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? Some hippie bullshit? And he's like, She's like, no, actually, those two things stimulate a part of the brain that you're not stimulating when you're sitting in front of a computer.
Wow.
So I deal with it by not writing, ironically. So I'll
Wow.
go for a walk. I'll like even go to a museum. Like I'll look at other art. I'll distance myself from the project and then come back to it with fresh eyes.
Okay. Oh, that's
yeah.
great.
Yeah, I get so many ideas when I'm walking. I'm like pulling out my notes on my phone and be like, oh, that's a good one.
Dang. I get ideas from like, I'm a visual person. So when I see something, then I'm like, oh, like I can just like add so much more to it. Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's
How do you see things? Do you like just go into nature? Is it like nature based, or is it like, oh, you're just like on Instagram or
Instagram or like clothing, or like we have like we're currently working on our season 3 trailer and that we do every year, and she mentioned one thing, like one sentence of like something that we needed to create more out of, and I was like, just seeing the words, I now can just like, I have so many ideas for it. But as far as it just like coming out of thin air, no.
Hey, we're kind of writing a short.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
It's
we're
a
writing.
It's a short film. I wrote it last night.
Oh my god, amazing!
We'll have to tell you about it off
It's
air.
not scripted, but I have the details down.
Yeah, it's gonna be
I
cool.
want to see it. You have to send it to me.
Did you see our end of season or the season 2 trailer where we blasted off in a spaceship?
I think I did. Yes.
We'll
We're
have to-
working on the next one.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love how you guys, even though this is a podcast and it's obviously like an auditivo in Spanish, auditory vehicle, you guys are it's a very visual sort of outlet for you. Like just the photos and the videos and the aesthetic and everything is like it's a fully sort of fleshed out new idea of like, I think this is like the future of podcasting is like it does rely on visual on the visual as well.
Yeah,
because that's
the
what we see
artwork.
online, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, us just doing audio would not be fully us. Like with me being a visual person and you also being the same way. Like we have to. We're just like
very heavy on, I guess, the marketing side and the creative. And yeah, I don't know.
Would you believe no one's picked us up yet? We're doing this all on our own.
We're waiting. We're just trying to figure out where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It makes us sad every day, but it's okay because we're just having fun doing it. So.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna nab you up.
I know they have to. Like
we'll get
we're
nabbed.
being authentic to us. Like so many people ask us all the time, like, well, one, why are you doing all this extra stuff? And two, like, who do you look up to? The question to the first answer is like, because we want to. Like, we just don't see it any other way. And then the second one is we don't really have a podcast that we look at or are really inspired by. Like, we've kind of just followed our instincts and been like, oh, this looks good. Like, that works. Like,
I can't.
well, there's not like really a guide from anyone that we've really been following, which is kind of great.
Good and bad. I'm sure we could get better if we looked at others. Who knows?
I mean, yeah, there's something about looking at others to get inspiration or know how to be better. But like, it all goes back to what we've been talking about from the beginning, which is if you imitate someone else, it's never going to be you, and therefore it's never going to be what you sell to the world successfully, because no one's going to be interested in another podcast that's just like Ira Glasses, you know?
Yeah.
Ira Glass, and you guys are you guys, so.
We're on our back road mountain pass thing. We're on the back. What did she say?
Of the mountain.
Yeah, we're on
you're
that
on like
back
the weird
trail.
thorny route.
Oh, yes, with the
You're on
thorns.
the back trail.
Yes. Yeah, mine had no thorns and I was trying to have a pleasant experience. But
You might think you're lost, but you're on your way up, and it'll all work out.
Yeah, we're just too close to the painting to see the full perspective.
Oh, cute. Wow, that was sweet.
Yeah, we just gotta take some steps back to see it.
There we go.
Before we start wrapping up, we actually have 3 questions we want to ask you that have nothing to do with this interview.
Love it.
Okay, you go first.
What's your favorite way to cook or eat a potato?
Fried. French fries, 100%.
I was like fried, just a fried potato just in there.
A potato on a stick.
Just a full fried potato.
I was at the fair the other night and they have pizza on a stick now.
I don't even know how that would work.
I had to see a photo. I was like,
That's absolutely unnecessary. A pizza is inherently something you can hold
Yeah.
with your hand.
yes, I know. I know.
The
That's why I was
innovation
like,
of today.
Yeah, that's why I needed to see it. And I was like, okay. Okay, so
God.
if you could be an Olympic gold medalist or a gold medalist at any Olympic sport, summer or winter, which one would it be?
I think it would be I think gymnast.
Mm,
Like the ones that do the dances.
yeah.
Oh.
Because that's a performance. That's like a
Mhm.
performance, you know? They're performing. They're not just
Yeah.
like doing,
Right.
they're performing.
They're
so true.
They're like, and then yeah,
And they're like-
okay.
And it does show some
Wow.
of the personality in there.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
You have to add that. Wow, okay, that was good. We've had people say gymnast, but they didn't add the performing part.
Yeah.
Wow, cute. Okay.
What is your answer?
Mine's synchronized swimming.
Oh, nice. I love that.
I think I moved into ice skating.
Oh, I didn't know.
I don't know. In my head, it's been that for a minute.
I like that. I'm just terrified of the blade part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're so pretty. Like, it's so fun to watch.
Yeah. One
So amazing.
I saw someone do their ice skating performance and they transformed into Sailor Moon during, and I've never really been the same since then. So yeah.
Wow.
There's a before and after in life, and that Sailor Moon performance was a before and after in this.
Okay, what's the other one?
If you were to would you rather smoke on weed on the beach or trip psychedelics in the desert?
Both of them probably would give me anxiety. And a bad trip. But let me think.
In a world where it didn't.
Just comedy your
You
way
know,
through it.
okay. You know what? I think here's the thing. I think psychedelics in the desert, because I've only done psychedelics once, and I don't remember the last time I was ever in a desert. So that would be like exciting, like an exciting new thing
New
for me.
things.
And if I did bad trip, I feel like I'd end up having a funny story,
Yeah.
finding a
Great.
fake oasis in the middle of the desert. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you think something bad happens, I'm like, this will be funny later.
Yeah.
Like, this will be
yes.
a funny story to tell.
That's why I asked earlier. I was wondering if psychedelics have influenced writing at all.
I've never done it for writing. I've never used stimulants or drugs or something for writing. Not that I judge it, or it's just something I haven't really tried. Who knows? The future is bright.
Well, yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to what you said. Like when you're really good at something, you're just doing it. You don't really need other things. Like I've never used a stimulant or a drug or anything for photography. I've always been sober behind the camera. So yeah, that kind. I'm like,
Yeah.
we keep asking those questions to people, like kind of seeing if like, oh, do psychedelics help you? And they're all the people that
always
are
like, no.
no,
It's
yeah,
just
the
who
people
they
that are
are.
good at what they do, they don't use it. So that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, friggin' thank you for coming on and spending the time with us. This is
Yeah, this
by
was
far the
amazing.
funniest interview,
Yeah.
and it's just, you taught us a lot. Wow.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you guys. Well, hopefully I'll see you when I'm
January.
westbound.
Yes.
At some point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
If you need maybe a lunch break while you're moving in, if you need me to help bring some things up, I will do that.
Aw, cute.
Oh my God, too late. You can't retract it. Now you will help
It's
me.
on. It's literally recorded. You
Listen,
can't take it back.
I will do all the dirty work I need to do for some
She's a
fucking
good
friends.
friend. She has no friends.
don't have any
It's
friends.
literally like me. And I don't live here.
I find that hard to believe.
No, it's a whole thing. We've talked about it. She has a hard time getting friends this one.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, we
well,
kind of. It's not your fault.
Yeah. I think I could be maybe more aggressive about it. Like,
I don't know. I think
don't know.
No, I think friends come like naturally.
Naturally.
Don't be like, do you want to get lunch? Like,
it was literally, I had therapy this week, and that was my homework to reach out to this girl I met and give her a date and time that was available to like go get lunch with her.
Aw.
I love that.
I
think
know,
that's
it's so
great.
cute, but I'm like, what the hell? If I were here, we'd be hanging out every day, but I guess that wouldn't really solve your problem.
No, yeah. I feel like, I don't know. Like, I've just never had like many girlfriends.
So
Ever.
when you're
Well,
here,
it's
Lacey
also
will.
hard in LA, right?
It's so
Yeah.
hard. Like, I I've been here for like 8 years, and at first I was in the modeling crew, and then I was like in the influencer world, and I was just like, this isn't like Arkansas. Like, y'all don't give a fuck about like friendship. Like, this is weird. And I was so young, so maybe I got burnt from that. But like, people are flaky. Like, people don't, respond to you. It's
or
just
people,
like
if you don't have enough followers, people don't care about you. Like, it's just a lot of. It's hard to find genuine people here. So basically, when you move here, Lacey will unpack everything for you. So.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it. Can't wait, Lacey. Yeah. I'm a pretty good friend.
I believe it.
Aw, cute.
Well, this is a great way to end this.
Yeah. Well, so where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, sure. So on Twitter, it's Joanna Hausmann. Oh my God, my name is so annoying to spell. Joanna, Joanna. Last name, it's Hausmann with an A. And then yes, HAUSMANN. And then on Instagram, I'm Johaus, JOHAUS. And honestly, if you just Google Joanna and then Venezuela, I pop up. And I think that's the easiest thing. Just Google Joanna Venezuela, I'll pop up somewhere.
We'll leave everything linked down below.
Yeah.
And maybe some of your shows too, so everybody can go watch them.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming on. This has been so good. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of questions.
This is what friends do.
Yeah.
This is what friends do to other friends.
Cute. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in and listening, and I'll let Lacey do her little outro.
Always with the outro. Yeah, please, guys, keep up with us on social media if you want. We mentioned a lot of our creative projects, so you can find all of them there. I will leave everything linked down below. My social, Stephanie's, and Oh Here We Go's.
Leave us a review.
Yeah, let us know what you think. If you have any ideas or guests that you would like to see on here, let us know. Yeah. We'll send them a little DM or a little email. But on that note, we will catch you in the next episode.
Yeah. Bye.